Well, it was a funny thing. I think I gave myself a dare. It was the height of the Cold War. The readers, the young readers, if there was one thing they hated, it was war, it was the military, or as Eisenhower called it, the military-industrial complex. So I got a hero who represented that 100th degree. He was a weapons manufacturer. He was providing weapons for the army. He was rich. He was an industrialist. But he was a good-looking guy, and he was courageous. He went over to Vietnam by himself to test out one of the weapons, and then something happened, and that's how he became Iron Man. But I thought it would be fun to take the kind of character that nobody would like, none of our readers would like, and shove him down their throat and make them like him. And because of the fact that Tony Stark was such a great guy, see, I kind of had Howard Hughes in mind when I was thinking of Tony. He was without being crazy, he was Howard Hughes. And he became very popular. I'll tell you a funny thing about Tony, who, as you know, had his heart had been injured, and he was always afraid at any moment he could keel over. I loved the concept of a guy in the armored suit and with all the things he could do. And I loved the idea we came up with that Iron Man was really somebody who was Tony Stark's bodyguard, because he had to justify, what's this guy doing always hanging around? And I thought that was kind of clever. So there was Tony Stark, there was Iron Man occasionally, and oh, he's Tony's bodyguard, that's okay. I loved the name Pepper Potts and Happy Hogan. Here's this rich man, he has this beautiful assistant or secretary, and she's in love with him. Now, if I were really an original writer, I would have had her hate him. But what the heck. Of all the comic books we published at Marvel, we got more fan mail for Iron Man from women, from females, than any other title. For some reason, females really loved Iron Man. I figured out it was because, first of all, he was handsome. Secondly, he was rich. And thirdly, I think a girl would want to mother him and say, that's all right, you'll be okay. Don't worry about your heart. I'll look after you. And hey, if you die, I inherit all your money. No, I only added that. I didn't mean that. But I think there was something about Tony that aroused the maternal instinct in women or something. But whatever the reason, and I never got over that, we got more fan mail for Iron Man from girls. We didn't get much fan mail from girls. But whenever we did, it was usually, the letter was usually addressed to Iron Man.
The beauty part for me about Iron Man has always been, and here you have this character who on the outside is invulnerable. I mean, just can't be touched. But inside is a wounded figure. Stan made it very much an in-your-face wound. You know, his heart was broken, you know, literally broken. But there's a metaphor going on there. And that's I think, what made that character interesting.
It was very easy for me to deal with the armor because I didn't have to draw it. I felt sorry for the artist. I'd make up anything, add this to the armor, do that to the armor, do that. Then I'd go do something else, and the poor guy had to work on it. And I was never satisfied with Iron Man's armor. If you look through all the issues of Iron Man, you will see I must have had his armor changed 1,000 times.
I loved Iron Man. It wasn't too much asked of me drawing him because there was hardly a face there. It's just not even a nose, just a slight hint of a nose, and a mouth and eyes. Well, you never even saw the pupils of the eyes. And I loved it because it was a challenge to get to show emotion on his face, because he's wearing a metal helmet. The suit is all metal. So I would bend the rules a little bit by showing if he was smiling at something, just to tweak the mouth up just enough to convey the message to the readers that he's smiling, or anger. And then I would do this, you know, and then you'd see these lines in here. And that would tell them that he was angry. The first cover was in pencil and about the size of a comic book cover. And it sold right away. And so I figured, since it's the first cover and it was so popular, they even made a print of it, the company. I decided to recreate it myself. And so I did. And that's how that came into being. That's, of course, much bigger than the cover, and more interesting in the sense that it's big, it's in color. And that's how I did it. I just copied everything that I had in front of me, all the detail, all the little back figures, and the lettering. I did the best I could with it, and it turned out good. Well, it's dynamic, really dynamic, and it moves. That figure moves, and he takes up a good deal of the cover. And of course, the lettering is big. It's like a burst. He's coming out of an explosion of some sort, and these little figures are just trimmings that you can hardly see unless you get up close. It was a joy doing because it was a smooth thing to do.
As a kid, I really liked that character precisely because I could imagine myself in that suit. So that was fun. When I came onto the Iron Man book, it had been kind of, I won't say floundering, but it had sort of lost its way for a few years up to that point. It had been a kind of a stepchild for the Marvel Universe, but it had always still maintained a certain cachet. It was also very heavily influenced by pop culture, and you know, there was a lot of characters go around saying they were heavy. That's heavy, man, heavy. Can you dig it? These days it would be, what's up, you know? Here's a guy who's basically a warmonger, a merchant of death. Now, when the character was created, that was not inherently a bad thing. You know, we're talking about in the early 60s, before Vietnam became a disaster, the idea of, you know, an arms merchant was not by itself a bad thing. But as time goes on and the war begins to become, you know, an issue and something that we as writers cannot ignore, here you have this character who represents the worst aspects of the, you know, the military-industrial complex. Now, what are you going to do with that? You know, you can take it in many different directions, but one direction that you might want to take it, if you're trying to make a hero, is to give him an inner conflict over the fact that he has this place in the world.